All right, we're looking at two books today. The first book is A Night to Remember by Walter Lord. And every year, April 14th, 15th, we recognize the sinking of the Titanic. And if anyone is interested in the sinking of the Titanic and the pathos and the tragedy of that sinking, they should read A Night to Remember by Walter Lord. It is a touchstone in Titanic literature for good reason. So what Lord did was he followed several people who had survived, of course, piecing together what happened to those who didn't. But he brought everybody, the reader, into the sinking, the two hours and 20 minutes it took for the ship to sink. He starts immediately with the collision with the iceberg. And then after that, he follows a group of people, including officers on the ship, throughout the entire time until the actual ship disappears beneath the waves. And this is a very effective way to, and a very, very simple way to chronicle, as he does, the crew and the passengers' dilemma, and of course not having enough lifeboats to save most of the people, and the agony that ensues because of this terrible oversight. An oversight, by the way, that was more arrogance than anything else. And as was said immediately after the Titanic sank, and that this was a terrible example of man's presumption, meaning we can take a fully laden transatlantic liner and rush it at full speed through an iceberg zone on the belief that this ship is unsinkable. Well, the Titanic it marked the end of an era as well. World War I followed shortly after and erased that presumption, and it should have erased that presumption. And it is now looked upon, as we know, with people going down to the Titanic, even recently, to think the idea that we can go down there and view its remains in safety is yet more presumption. You cannot do that. Anyway, the book itself is very well written. Walter Lord is a very good writer. The narrative flows along quite smoothly, and it builds, and the tension is absolutely rendered. There are too many stories around this to even get into. There are a lot of stories around the Titanic, but as a starting point, if you're interested, do pick up Walter Lord's A Night to Remember. It's not a long read, and it will start you on the journey. The second book we're going to look at is called 102 Minutes, and by Jim Dwyer and Kevin Flynn. And this is the 102 minutes it had taken for the Twin Towers to collapse, from the moment of the first impact to the moment where the second tower collapsed. 102 minutes. And the reason this is linked with Night to Remember is that the authors themselves said, when trying to chronicle what happened in the case of the Twin Tower collapse, and finding a way to actually tell this story, they they recollected A Night to Remember by Walter Lord. How do you tell a story like this? How do you begin to approach it? And Walter Lord had already sailed that sea, so to speak, and he was able to, or the authors were able to look at his work and say, okay, here's our template. We tell certain stories. We tell the stories of the people we can interview. We begin as close to the crisis as possible and start from there. And so 102 Minutes is just like that, just like Walter Lord's A Night to Remember. And even people have looked at that and said, yes, the last lifeboat off the Titanic, not knowing that this was the last lifeboat off the Titanic. Well, the last elevator load of people down to the lobby. Same sort of thing. It's, the parallels are, that's just one of them, but the parallels are strong all the way through. And the stories are also wrenching because some of it put me in mind of that another disaster movie that was actually on sea. It was the Poseidon Adventure. Everybody had to make a decision about whether to go up or down. So these decisions that were either fatal or not were also throughout this book, and how people came to live and how people came to survive, and all of it was bounded by 102 minutes. So some of the book gets into building codes and looking like that. Walter Lord gets into the Board of Trade not demanding more lifeboats. So they do get off point here and there, but not significantly. And at the end of 102 minutes, you would say, well, this is if I wanted to learn any more, a very good place to start. You start with human beings, and you start with what they went through, what this was actually about. Anything that follows, whether politics or jet fuel on the effect of jet fuel on steel, you can find that elsewhere. But when you're looking at just a very good place to start, or just one book you wanted to look at to appreciate what happened that day, this is the book.